So something I've been meaning to make for a while is a carry frame for my Britannia. Let's take a look at it and decide. I'll show you why I need one. So it's the 3.5-inch gauge Brit which I keep in the house. And as you can see, especially at this front end, there's a lot of stuff to make it very difficult to get hold of. And the same goes under the back of the engine. And you can't get hold of much around here. You can't get hold of this because it's all part of the cab, which is not really attached to much. So you end up trying to get right underneath and hold the bogie. It would be much more convenient if this was in a frame. Now I've got an idea. Let's have a quick build up. So 35 inches from the cab to the buffers. Now in the car there's a bit of a step there, so I'm good avoiding that. But if I go up to the very end, I need to drag a bit more tape out. So right up to the end, got almost 40 inches there. So I have got a bit of clearance. So I'll go for about 3 foot, maybe 37 inches, and we'll be good. So I've been out buying some metal. Excuse the hair, it's a bit crappy. And it is 20mm square box section that we're going to use. I'll cut 2 lengths to 37 and then some spacers in between that or something else. Let's get going with that. So I've got a few bits cut to shape or length. See the cross pieces in the middle are smaller box section than the rail, so the flanges don't get caught. Now up at the front end, all the drawings are in my head, so I've got to explain this as I go along. We're going to have a long piece at the far end, I can't reach from here, and then a piece standing up. Imagine this laying down. 2 pieces standing up. I'm going to cut a V in the top of each of them and then weld that through the top. And that'll be the front end of the engine where I hang where I lift the front from. And then this piece of angle here will be positioned at the correct height from the rail, so the buffers of the engine just sit under there and cannot leave the track. So that's the plan. Like I say, drawings are up here, making it up a little bit as I go along, but that's the front end. So I'm going to get the main body welded up and that front end, then I can put the loco on it and decide what I'm going to do with the back end, because I can't remember what's at the back to hold the engine down to the track or anything. So one step at a time. So there it is. As you saw, I used a TIG welder for it all. It's quite a thin wall tube. TIG welder, much more controllable, much nicer looking welds, and yeah. So one of the secrets of good welding is preparation, and that's something I didn't really do then. I hadn't noticed that the steel tube I got from B&Q is varnished presumably to stop it rusting in the shop. But that means as I was welding, it was burning off the varnish, and it was difficult to get going sometimes. But it's all done, and I should have stopped once I realised and cleaned off the varnish from the areas that I was doing, but it seemed to be going okay. So yeah, next step is to offer it up to the engine, off the engine up to it. I'm going to put the bit of angle on over the buffers on in situ. I'm not going to risk putting it on. I might tack it, just a little tack at the measured height, and then take it from there. Check it fits, fully weld it if it does, and then think about something at the back end. So there we are. She's on the cradle. We just need to figure out holding down the back end. As you can see, the buffer height is about right, especially if I put some protective cloth or something inside to stop it scratching, because there is a little bit of leeway for it to lift, but not enough for the wheels to leave the track. So that is fine. And if I put some cloth around the angle there, that'll take up a bit of the slack. So it's time to do something with the back. I just realised I got carried away making without taking any video. So this is a rectangular frame with a round handle at the top, which will go right at the end of the frame, with the intention there's enough clearance above the cab roof to get hold of that to lift it by, and the engine passes right through, and then we may work off of this somehow for the fixing mechanism to hold in the back of the engine. So I haven't actually filmed the securing down as far as I've got so far, but I've tacked a few things up and I'll show you what my thought process was. So I put that piece of plate in the bottom. That's quite thick, and I've drilled and tapped an M8 hole in the middle, because I had this little bit of box section there, which I thought if that goes over the top of the drawbar, that'll hold it down. I then got that big, just happened to have that bit of offcut of rectangle box section kicking around. Welded a plate across the top so it can be bolted down. Two strong straight bars going up, and I've put them in at a slight angle, with the intention being that when that goes on, it's not actually flush to the plate at the bottom. So as you tighten the bolt up, it will pull it down. Now it still needs fully welding, but I thought, well, I might put a diagonal brace on as well, just to give it a bit more strength. So I used a long bolt with a bit of tube to space it up, and hopefully that will then screw in like that. And because that is touching this frame at the back, it can't slide out at the back. So as I tighten it up, it should, as you don't know if you can see, it's actually pulled the engine forward and down, which was the intention. So that can't move. So, oh, you might notice I put that diagonal brace in as well to strengthen up the handle, because that felt a little bit floppy. I will do the same at the front end as well. So that seems to work fine. Even with just a tack, it seems to be doing the job. So fully welded, and like I say, I might just put a diagonal bar in there as well, give it a bit more strength. But we'll see that in a moment. And this is only tack welded as well at the moment, so we'll take this off, take this back to the workshop, fully weld that, or at least more weld it, put the diagonal at the front, fully weld this up, and then we'll be ready to go. So I've decided to leave it as that. It's pretty thick material that's standing up there, and it's got quite a long weld on both sides of it, so I think that will have the strength to put up with the full backward motion. The fact that just a tiny tack on the back pulled the engine down, I think we'll be fine. I would mention in here that brass that you can see there, the bit of tube I cut down was a bit sloppy on fit, so I just turned a brass top hat washer that sits inside to centralise the bolt. Now hopefully I'm done. I have just added a couple of bits which I had in the plan from the beginning but I didn't mention to you. Got a couple of these wheels. Maybe I've been wrong to weld them on because I had to do the weld and then quickly quench it to stop them melting the wheels. But yeah, they have got bolt holes, but I decided to just tack it on. The idea being, I've only put them at one end of the trolley, of the frame, and they're higher up than the floor, with the aim being that when she's sat down, she's sat on the frame, but when you pick the back up, you can wheel the front end in. So when I'm putting it into the car, I can hold the back up and it'll wheel into the car. Let's have a look. So there they are. You see they're not really much above the, or below the box section that makes the rail, but then there's the other box section further along. So, I've not done this yet. When it's laid on the floor with an engine in there, those wheels are well clear of the ground. And all you've got to do is lift it up a bit and you can wheel it along. So, I think we're done. Let's go and put it in.